morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to have you here this morning. Thank you so much for taking your morning to be a civically engaged neighbor. We appreciate it so much. My name is Denise Lucy, and I'm the co-president of the Point San Pedro Road Coalition. And it's just an honor to be in this organization to support each other and our neighbors. I wanted to thank some people today. First of all, what would we do without Sadie Mahoney and the amazing breakfast she brings us for 15 years? Okay, Sandy, wait. Sadie Mahoney from Manson Realty, you're the awesome rock star. Thank you so much for always being with us and next to us, Sandy. We have also Mike Wolpert. Mike is our videographer volunteer. Video. He recorded my birthday party, 70th birthday party. Oh my goodness. It was so fun. Is it be like that today?
It's not going to be that. Yes, more fun. More.
Okay, so good. I wanted to recognize our committee chairs. John Lenzer, who is our disaster preparation chair. There you go, John. Thank you so much, John. Let's give John an applause, please. Thank you. Robert Sandoval, our roadway chair. Good morning, Robert. David Gess, our communications committee chair. Thank you, David. David did so much work for this program today. Thank you so much for your detail and your creativity and your patience with all of us. I'm the Quarry chair. You better clap. Thank you. And then Wetlands is Winifred. Where are you, Winifred? Here you are. Winifred Dejani is our Wetlands chair. So it's our privilege to have Marin County leaders, City of San Rafael leaders, and Christina Thompson will be joining us. So first we're going to start with Marin County. District Supervisor Mary Sackett is here, and CEO Jared Johnson, along with Christopher Blunk. We have remarkable information to impart to you today. So we please welcome our esteemed and revered Supervisor Mary Sackett.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see a turnout like this. And I just want to start by thanking Denise and the entire Roadway Coalition and all of you who serve on your individual homeowners or neighborhood association groups. We can't do what we do without your commitment and dedication and frankly knowing who your neighbors are. It's, what we oftentimes do in city and county government, it's hard to get people to pay attention and to listen, and vice versa. We don't hear from people, and so having these coalition meetings and having neighborhood associations who are really involved and paying attention and have long histories with neighbors is so important. So I just want to take a moment to thank you all for being engaged and for being here. I am here today. My aide, Crystal Martinez, is right back here. And I'll just start by saying, if you ever have any questions or concerns, please reach out to Crystal or myself. We are here to serve you. And if you're not sure if it's a city or a county issue, call us and we'll help get you to the right place. I acknowledge and want to just say hi to Maribeth Bushey, your council member who's back there. I think you'll hear from her a little bit later. And Andrew McCullough, your former council member, is back there too. Maybe he's trying to hide. I don't know. He no longer takes complaints. He passes those on to the rest of us. So thank you all for being here. So I'll just start a little bit about, as your District 1 supervisor, I represent a number of areas of unincorporated and incorporated San Rafael, and as you all know, this is a patchwork corridor that requires us to work very closely with the City of San Rafael on everything we do. We have a lot of moving pieces happening at the county right now, and I'm going to not take too much time this morning before I turn it over to my colleagues who are here with us today, and you'll hear from them just a minute, our county executive and our public works director. And I'll say, my role as an elected county supervisor is to really represent you all in the decisions we make at the county government, and then let somebody else execute on the ideas. And so I think one of the most important roles that we have as a Board of Supervisors is ensuring that we hire the right leadership so that people can execute on the things that are important to you. And I think that you'll hear today that we've hired the right leadership. So I'm excited for you to hear from our new Public Works Director, not new to Public Works or to the county, but new in this role, and our county executive. We have a lot of impacts that we're having to deal with in the county based on sort of what is happening at the federal level. HR 1 is really having significant impacts and will continue to have impacts that we're navigating on a frankly daily basis. The last 2 weeks have really been trying to react to make sure that people have food, as we were really concerned as people weren't getting food benefits. But there's a lot coming down from the federal government right now that really has local impacts. The county can't backfill and solve all of those issues, but we really endeavor to be looking at the safety net for county folks and making sure that we are doing what we can to make sure people have the services and the supports that they need. We have 4 main priorities not 4, 6. Saturday morning, can I count to 6? That the board has identified. So the 5 of us really work on as you may know, there's issues coming every day, and what are we going to focus our energy and efforts on to make sure that we do those well? It's affordable housing and homelessness, race equity, climate change and sea level rise, disaster preparedness, whether that's fire, flood, earthquake, or anything else that may come at us. And then county infrastructure is really one of those that doesn't seem quite as exciting, but it's such an important part as the infrastructure across our county, from sewer laterals and underground infrastructure to our county facilities and buildings as well. They're just at that point in their lives that they need some upgrades, and buildings like the Marin County Civic Center are not easy or cheap to upgrade when they need a new HVAC system. And then community and economic vitality. And this is something we just added this year of really how do we support the county and the economic engines that drive this county. We don't have manufacturing in Marin. We don't have many large employers. The majority of the employers within this county are under 8 people. So aside from healthcare and education, we're really dealing with a lot smaller businesses, but we've got some really cutting edge businesses as well. So wanting to look at what do businesses and jobs need from county government in order to be successful and to thrive. Part of my role is to sit on a number of other regional boards in addition to the County Board of Supervisors. So this is just, it went away, that's okay. So I sit on the board of NCE Clean Energy, which you may be reading about a little bit in the press right now. SMART, Transportation Authority of Marin. I sit on the Marin Transit Board with Councilmember Bushey, North Bay Watershed, and then one of my favorite projects is the Great Redwood Trail, which is a rails trail project from San Francisco Bay to Humboldt Bay, which is a really exciting project in Marin County. That is the SMART pathway, but the vision is for that to be a 300-mile corridor that folks can travel, walk, bike, either in small segments or end-to-end. So that's a really exciting big picture board that I get to sit on as well. Lots of visuals, but I'm going to just keep going. This one isn't particularly pretty, but I want to share that we are starting right after the Thanksgiving holiday through the new year. We will have a holiday lights spectacular on the Civic Center campus and invite everybody to come out. There was a really pretty picture of these lights that will be here right now. But you're just going to have to come out and take a look and see them. And really, there's opportunity to stop in for a cup of coffee, cocoa, a churro a couple of nights. There's going to be some movies in the exhibit hall, and really just giving the community a place to gather and convene and enjoy. Really, the Civic Center campus is such an amazing place, and we want to make sure that people have a place to gather and enjoy that over the next couple, over a month or so. I'm gonna just keep going. Oh, there we go. No, yeah, there we go. Let's see. Catch up. See, there's the pretty lips. Yep, there we go. See? You still have to come out to see them in person. I saw them painting them just the other day, starting to get that. And the beloved Christmas tree lot has moved on to where the fairgrounds are for this season, because the actual Christmas tree lot, tomorrow morning, we're doing a ribbon cutting for that, which is starting off the, we've now finalized and approved the permanent farmers market, which will be where the Christmas tree lot was. So that is a really, see some clapping, that's been a long time coming, yes. It's really exciting to see that project that has been talked about and fundraised for get across the finish line, and excited to see what that project does to getting folks onto the campus of the Civic Center, but frankly, more importantly, the farmers market is a really crucial economic vitality piece for us too. A lot of people come out every Sunday, but it really is also supporting our West Marin agriculture. West Marin is in agriculture are really being challenged and stretched thin right now, and so how do we as a county support by local milk, dairy products, cheeses, and make sure that the folks who are working on those ranches have a market in order to get the best return for them. Because we have a lot of folks who are working in West Marin. I think we all love that they're there, and really we want to make sure that the farmers market is an opportunity where we can continue to support them. Yay, thank you. A couple of quick updates on Marin County parks and open space. If you haven't been out to the Tiburon Ridge property, put it on your list. It is a great place to go where you have views of the Richmond San Rafael Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, Angel Island. Every time you go out there, you have a different view, and it's less than a mile walk out to this little point that you can look out over Angel Island. It is really an amazing, has anybody been out there? A few of you. So the best way to get, probably the easiest way is to put it in your navigation, but if you just go to the Tiburon Peninsula and drive up behind the police station, there's a number of different trailheads, and you can park at the end of one of those. There'll be a Marin County Park sign, and walk towards the bay. It's kind of an up and down, but it's really an amazing, every time I have somebody here from out of town, that's where I take them. Roy's Redwoods Preserve, so if you are thinking about going to Muir Woods and it seems a little bit complicated, please check out Roy's Redwoods. That project has really been revamped over the last year or two to make it an amazing walk through the redwoods. When it's hot, yes. When it's hot, it's an amazing place to be. It is just such a magical spot that the Marin County Parks did an amazing job. There were folks on those crews who understood woodwork and understood masonry and have just some really neat elements into that project. The Eagle Rock Trail is where you will see me on most weekends, and that's up behind Terra Linda High School. Also it was, kind of straight up and down fire roads and really neat bridges and switchbacks through a couple of different ecosystems that you walk up to the top, and you get up to the top of Ridgeway, and the eucalyptus between Sleepy Hollow and Terra Linda is a really neat spot. And as you hopefully know, the fees for the regional parks have all been waived, and we really kind of looked at the fact that it costs more money to collect some of those fees than we returned in those fees, and it gives everybody an opportunity to get into our parks and open space. So those are the exciting things. I'll turn on to the smart pathway, and I know people have mixed feelings about what it does to traffic in San Rafael, and I hear you and acknowledge you on that. I do want to share that compared to this time last year, there's a 31% increase in ridership on a daily basis on that train. If people tell you there's nobody on the train, what I want to say is get on the train and then have that conversation with me. Those cars are full, they're transporting people. On the weekends, there's been a 41% year-over-year increase in ridership. And I will tell you that when it comes to public transit, this is really leading the nation for that amount of increase in ridership. We have a lot of county employees who take the train every day. But what we also see is the train is free for seniors and older adults. And we've seen a great opportunities where folks are taking it during the day to see friends, family, go up to Petaluma for lunch. The new Windsor station opened in June. Really fun place to just hop on the train, go to Windsor. There's a little ice cream shop right in downtown, walk around for a little bit. So it's really both out of necessity, but also a wonderful way to get around the North Bay without having to be in your car. And the other interesting tidbit on this is the average smart passenger goes 20 to 21 miles. So we're taking, when you think about what you're taking off the roadways and congestions and emissions and so forth, these aren't what you think of as a local bus where people may be going 5 miles. People are really taking much longer trips, 20 miles to get, frankly, from the north and south. And then also the Larkspur station now has a 7-day-a-week shuttle from the station to the ferry. So it's a great way to get into the city. It's a nice walk on a nice day, but there's also a shuttle there. And then there's also a shuttle at the Santa Rosa Airport. So put that in the back of your mind. They just got direct flights into that Santa Rosa Airport from Ontario. And there's, I think, 7 or 8 different destinations that airport can. It's sometimes much easier than going to SFO. So keep that in the back of your mind as well. So now on to one of the most intractable and difficult issues that we deal with each day, and saw it this morning coming in, is just the issue of homelessness in our communities. And this is not unique to Marin, this is not unique to California. It's really intractable issue, and we are trying to solve this and get people off of our streets and into homes across the county. We're lucky in Marin that there's about 1,300 people who are experiencing homelessness in the county. I say lucky in that it's a manageable, smaller number, but really, to see a woman this morning packing up her sleeping bag, and I thought, in this weather and so forth, we don't want to see that, but we also don't want to have people experiencing that. So we're doing a number of different projects, frankly, to address different needs. And I'll just quickly go through those. One is 30 Joseph Court, which is a place, if you think of where the old Marin Joe's was, it's School of Rock now on Redwood Highway. That's an old San Rafael fire station that will be opened up. It's under construction right now with 15 beds for folks who have mental health and substance abuse issues. They can be there for about 90 days to try to stabilize to get into other housing. 3301 Kerner, it's now called Canal. Casa Canal opened up this summer. Walking around that last weekend during the processions of Dia de los Muertos, that project looks great. Folks are living there. 40 units of housing in that project, which was a commercial turned to residential. We recently got funding to work on a project with Catholic Charities for about 20 transitional age youth. So these are oftentimes folks, younger kids coming out of foster care or otherwise landing on their feet for the first time as young people, and there's about 20 units of housing to give them an opportunity to, whether it's get started in a career or get started in college and have that housing, at age 18, which I think is also really important. And then you may have heard a little bit, I know Councilmember Bushey and I have heard a lot of it, about a project that we will be voting on in this upcoming week at 350 Marydale, which would have interim cabins for interim housing and then a permanently affordable housing project there over the next 3 to 4 years. So that's also well underway, and there's an opportunity to participate in both the city meeting on Monday night and the county meeting on Tuesday morning, and the city, I may have just lost this, but I'll talk loud. Can you hear me? Okay. The city has a great frequently asked questions and website on that project, so if you have any questions about it, I encourage you to start there, and you can also reach out to us. And then just a other little known project is you may recall that the governor really talked about Care Court as a way to get folks who may not want to get into housing into more stable housing and treatment. And Care Court, Marin County is really leading the way in getting people into that system. We have really, this is oftentimes folks who maybe a family member wants to get somebody stabilized and into treatment, but the person is unwilling. And Care Court is a way for the court to help force somebody to get through the program. And we have 24 people who have gone into that that system and program really, and trying to get them the support that they may need. And frankly, what I hear is that's some of the folks you're seeing on the street who have family members in this county who just haven't been able to successfully help their family member. And so getting them into Care Court is another way to do that. And then I always want to share, in particular with folks who are interested in their neighbors and care about their community, is if you are ever worried about a neighbor, or you think, there we go, are we back? Okay. If you're ever worried about a neighbor or concerned about somebody, or frankly have been in the hospital yourself and said, hey, I need a little extra help, I just want you to know that 415-473-INFO is really a one door where you can call and find out what county services are available, whether for you or for somebody else. You can learn about transportation, food delivery, whether it's connection to other care providers, and that's really a way. I oftentimes give the example of, when my father broke his hip, I started going, I need somebody to come in and help me put grab bars into the bathroom. But what I wasn't thinking was 2 weeks and a month later where he was going to continue to need a different form of help. And so this phone number is a way to just find out what's out there. What do I qualify for? Because if you try to read it, it can get real wonky on what's income qualified, what's not income qualified. And frankly, transportation is a really complicated issue in our community if there's a time when folks need help getting around the county. And then I imagine most of you are signed up for Alert Marin. If you're not, I hope that you will please today. If you say, I think I probably did that at one point in time, I always recommend check it. So it's much easier to deal with now. There's a QR code here that you can scan or go to Alert Marin. And the one thing that has really improved over the last couple of years is now you can put in a couple of different addresses that you want to get alerts for. So you probably put in your home address, but if you want to put in your work address or your kids' or grandkids' school or daycare, you can put that in so you're aware if there's any other issues, whether it's road closures or something more dire. And I have that in print. If somebody didn't catch it, happy to share that with you. And then finally, just want you to have my contact information, and really I'm here to serve you. So if you have questions, concerns, or something you want me to know about, please reach out and we will endeavor to get you an answer to those questions. I will take questions. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Derek Johnson. And I'm going to do this, or you want to do it, Denise?
You can do it.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're clear that we'll take a Q&A after all the school years in the county. We'll have around 10 minutes at the end. And Bill, when do we have to be fully finished in 10 minutes? What's the time? 10:45?
Yeah.
And so what Bill's going to teach us is, let's say for each speaker, just give them a 5-minute tone. Look, check this out.
Oh.
We're going to have a tone. We're going to have a 1-minute tone.
Is that different?
And then a 0-minute tone.
Really? I gotta do all that?
Thank you very much. I love the acoustics. So I want to welcome the County of Marin hired a county executive 18 months ago, I believe it is, and Derek Johnson came from the city of San Luis Obispo and has really jumped in with both feet and has us moving in a lot of directions to frankly endeavoring to be more efficient and effective. So I'm going to turn it over to Derek, and then again we'll take questions after that.
Well, thank you, Supervisor Sackett, and good morning. Normally on Saturday morning, I'd be riding down San Pedro Road. I kind of do a loop here both Saturday and Sunday. I was glad to see that I had a couple friends in Lycra. I thought it might be a little daunting to have a middle-aged man up here at Lycra this morning, so I wore a sports jacket instead. So you probably all appreciate that. But I'm really excited to be back in Marin County. So I left for nearly over 30 years. I grew up in Marin County, and my mom grew up in Marin County, my grandparents, and so it's really fantastic for me to be able to come back and provide service and serve all of you in Marin County. So I'm excited to meet with you today, and I'm going to keep this tight because I know Dr. Lucy and the team want to keep you all on track today because we know you're also busy as well getting it here Saturday morning. So a little bit as I'm to build upon Supervisor Sackett's comments this morning. I have 25 years of local government leadership, city manager in San Francisco, and I spent some time also down in Santa Barbara and also in Santa Cruz. So I've had the fortune of living in coastal communities and working and serving in coastal communities. And I studied at UC Santa Barbara in environmental science, and I've led initiatives around something that Supervisor just spoke about, homelessness, financial stability, and writing San Luis Obispo's finances, climate action, the work that I did down in San Luis Obispo, the climate action work that I did, we were recognized as having the best climate strategy in the United States, and we made significant efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and address kind of climate change. And then also a significant amount of work on housing. And as the supervisor mentioned, that's one of our goals. So as we move to the next slide, a little bit about what drives me to do this work. And I just want to give you a little bit of background is that, public service has been around for thousands of years, since the time of Athens. And so this is something that really speaks to me, and hopefully it speaks to you about my commitment to you in terms of leading this organization. And the supervisor talked a little bit about some of the changes that are happening, which I'll speak to in just a moment. But at the end of the day, my job is to lead not necessarily this city, but this county better than when, and more beautiful than it was transmitted to me. So that's my commitment to all of you in doing that work. You saw from the 6 goals that the supervisor articulated this morning. Some of those goals are really future oriented. They're about infrastructure, they're around housing, homelessness, helping people, making sure this place, Marin County, that we all love and cherish, that it's transmitted to the next generation better than we found it today. And that's what I'll be striving on and working on here into the future. So the supervisor also mentioned the transition from administrator to executive. And it's a pretty significant shift. When I was recruited to come here to Marin County, the section of the county code that I looked at hadn't been touched in 70 years. So what that said is really the county hadn't really looked at the leadership structure of the county in 70 years, and they made the deliberate decision when they went out and did a recruitment to shift from an administrator to an executive. And the purpose is really to make sure there's alignment and we approve our service delivery. They want to strengthen accountability and performance. We want to build on collaboration and also work on continuous improvement. The way we've done business for the last 20, 30 years may not be the same solutions moving forward, so we have to identify what's working, what's not working, what we can do better, and how we need to shift, particularly in light of some of the challenges moving forward. And we also just see kind of some intersectionality of all of these issues. We see the intersectionality of homelessness and housing and climate change and understanding that economic and community vitality are all linked together. So the board recognized in the past, they had 18 department heads reporting to 5 of them. And that didn't necessarily make for the best and most efficient structure or alignment. And so they decided, hey, we're gonna hire one person, and that, is the county executive, and it's my job to get things done, and they're gonna hold me accountable for the goals that they've set forth. So when I started my job back in April of 2024, one of the first things I did is brought forward a performance plan. I had 50-something goals in that plan. I'm about to report to the board here in January how I'm doing on those goals. I'm happy to say that about 50 of those I've made substantial progress on. There's 2 I haven't quite got there. But, there's still some time ahead, and I plan to make some progress on those over the next coming months. So what is, to get into some more detail about administrator to executive, it's really about having also some municipal services and economic development. So my background as a city manager, I recognized that there were some structural shortcomings in terms of how we serve unincorporated communities. And so thanks to the board, we've added some key staff to provide a city manager, county manager-like function, so you have some accountability and coordination in some of the incorporated areas. We are working also on grants and legislation. We have a very good advocate for all of you in both Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. to make sure that your voice and our interests are being heard. We are also, for the first time, you may have read back in May of 2025 of this year, that I added a substantial amount of positions to my office, and some of those are around climate change. We need to have someone and a team who is dedicated to working on climate change. This county, over the next 50 plus years, has an estimated $20 billion worth of investments we need to make to address climate change. And so that is only going to happen through a coordinated strategy from the people who show up every single day to figure out how are we going to adapt and be resilient in the face of those challenges. We've also fallen behind in terms of our digital presence, and we need to really up a lot of our work. And then lastly, we need to improve our performance, and that's really the reorganization. Finishing up with just a couple slides today. I'll run through these quick because I'm glad it's not a gong, it's a nice friendly bell. Sea level rise, you all know, I just mentioned this, a lot of challenges. You've seen around the Civic Center campus. We've got a lot of work, a lot of investment. We want to realize the vision of Frank Lloyd Wright. His vision for the Civic Center was the good time place. And so where we can come and it can be a place where you can do your civic work, you can have recreation, you can see plays, experience art, and that's what we're working on. A little bit about our budget. We're about nearly $1 billion budget. I'm very thankful to the board and for Matthew Heimel, the previous county administrator. We're in a very good financial position. I will say just in the next slide as I wrap up, we've got some mixed indicators that you can see here up on the screen. I'm happy to leave these slides for all of you. We've got some significant potential exposure on the state and federal budget. And then last but not least, as we wrap this up, I just invite you all to stay engaged and stay informed. We have our budget processes coming up in February. You can come and participate in and speak to the board about your priorities. I invite you to subscribe for news updates, and then you can always follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc. We're really trying to improve our communications. So I know that was a lot of information in a short time, kind of like an information avalanche here from the stage, but we'll look forward to the questions at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris Blunk, our Public Works Director.
Thank you very much, Pedro. And thank you, Supervisor Sackett. I just wanted to, on behalf of myself, Derek and Supervisor Sackett, thank you all so much for having us this morning. It's just always great to have the opportunity to come in and share what's going on with the county, and we appreciate the Point San Pedro Coalition for having us this morning. So I want to talk about a couple projects. I have slides on one, but I had a lot of folks ask me questions about the slide out in China Camp, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. But first and foremost, I want to talk about a maintenance project that we are developing with the city of San Rafael our Public Works Department and theirs, to do a preventative maintenance roadway slurry seal on Point San Pedro Road. And this would be roughly from San Rafael High School all the way out toward, I believe it's Biscayne. I have on the next slide the limits of that. Yes, out to Biscayne Drive. So this is a long, long stretch of project. Going back to the last slide, the scope of work is to, I'm sorry, on the next slide, the scope of work is to do a slurry seal project, which would come in, it'll seal up that roadway surface. Before we do the sealing work, we'll go take the areas where the asphalt has really failed, bad potholes in the rutted sections. We'll do what we call dig outs there. So we'll grind out that bad asphalt, we'll put new asphalt back in, and then we'll come through, we'll do the slurry seal project. And every time we do a pavement restoration project like that, we have a blank slate when we're done to be able to restripe the roadway and ideally better serve all users with that opportunity, with that blank canvas of the roadway. So we recognize there are many, many users of Point San Pedro Road. We have bicyclists, we have school children, we have the quarry and the quarry trucks, we have the neighbors who come and go, as well as tourists that come in and visit. So what we're trying to do is strike a balance between all of the interests on the roadway with how we restripe that road. We're looking for opportunities to enhance the bike lane continuity, the signage, and the striping. We're looking for opportunities to maybe buffer the bike lane by reducing the roadway width slightly from 12 feet down to 11. And I think on the next slide we have some, yes. That's our white slurry slide. Go to the next slide, Crystal, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. So I just was jumping right into the enhancements that we're looking at. So where we have room, we have very, very wide lanes out here. Statewide, it's quite common to have 11-foot through lanes. We currently have 12-foot wide through lanes. And if we reduce those down to 11, we gain a couple of extra feet that might be used to be able to buffer that bike lane. In addition to that, we propose some enhanced bicycle markings to just show where those bike lanes are, make it more clear. In some cases, the bike lanes end because of on-street parking, and there's not even really any signage to let the drivers of the bikes know that they need to merge out and ride with traffic. And then in addition to those enhancements, we are looking via separate projects at doing some enhanced crosswalks. And so the City of San Rafael has proposals to put in the flashing beacons at Peacock Drive, Knight Drive, and Riviera. Can't take credit for that, that's a City of San Rafael project. The county is actually under construction right now on putting in what's called a clock crosswalk. It's basically a pedestrian signal at Summit Avenue. We have higher than statewide average collision rates at Summit Avenue, and the county applied for a grant through the Federal Highway Safety Program and was successful in receiving funding to put an actuated crosswalk there. So if we go on to the next slide, I just put some examples up so you can see the existing roadway condition and the bike lane, and then I found an example online of what a buffer bike lane would look like if we put in about a 2-foot straight area between that bike lane and the through traffic. And we'll move on. While we do that work, we want to make sure that we're not any pollutants into the bay because of the direct proximity to the roadway. We have what we call stormwater pollution management, best management practices. We would not be doing this work during the rain. We'll make sure to have secondary containment of our equipment so that we don't have oil or materials that could make their way in for contaminants. And then we protect the drainage inlets to make sure that nothing gets washed out into the waterways. And moving on, anticipated project schedule. We're working right now with the City of San Rafael, as I said, to get the project designed. We would have the sections within the city limits would be approved by the City of San Rafael. The county would approve the sections, the design work within unincorporated county. And then we want to construct the project with one agency managing the construction so that we don't have coordination issues. We want to treat this like one project so that we minimize the impacts to the traveling public and to the neighbors. We also want to make sure that we don't have conflicts with school and school traffic. So we're looking to schedule the bulk of the work to occur when school is not in session. And that's likely to be summer of 2026. There's a couple other projects we need to make sure that we coordinate with, so we're not having contractors step on each other's toes. But in the interest of time, I won't go into that right now. And that was basically it for our Point San Pedro Road project. I wanted to mention the slide out at China Camp. I'm happy to report we've had great partnerships, not only with the Friends of China Camp, California State Parks, but also BCDC on getting permits and approval to move forward to repair that slide. So we're about 95% of the way through the design work. I anticipate we'll be putting the project out to advertise for construction bids within the next month or two. And then we'll probably wait until we get through the rainy season. It's not a great time of the year to be trying to do earthwork adjacent to the bay. Probably get through the rainy season, come in early spring. And just so that you all know, rather than coming and building a huge, expensive, and probably unsightly retaining wall on the water side where the slide occurred, we actually are planning on going and cutting the hillside on the inboard side of the roadway and realigning the roadway in. So that would give us a more stable base for the roadway. We would repair the slope on the outside, but it eliminates the need for a huge retaining wall there. And our partners in California State Parks have been great in working with them to be able to do that work on our property. So that's it for me. I'm happy to try to take any questions that I can, and then maybe turn things back over to Supervisor Sackett to close this out.
5 minutes for questions, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you clarify the plan for widening the bike lanes? If that's actually happening or is it?
Sure. So the question, in case folks couldn't hear, is are we actually widening the bike lanes? The plan right now, the concepts that we've developed with San Rafael from the design, don't physically widen the bike lanes themselves. There's just not quite enough room on the roadway. They do put in a standard 5-foot wide bike lane, and where we have the available room within the roadway, we would add a 2-foot striped buffer so that that through traffic has a little bit more separation between the bikes and the bike lane and the through traffic.
And that is happening?
We're moving forward to develop the project. Ultimately, the project has to be approved by the San Rafael City Council and also by the Marin County Board of Supervisors before we can go to construction, but that is what we're developing. Yes, sir.
I just want to confirm, there was some reckless talk in the past about going to one lane, but your plan includes 2 traffic lanes both directions.
That's correct. The plan does not reduce any of the through traffic lanes in either direction. Like I said, we're trying to balance the needs of all roadway users and make some enhancements while we can while we have the blank slate.
Great.
Yes, ma'am. In the middle?
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. We redid the roadways, the pavement that you're talking about, the slurry seals, et cetera. I don't remember how long ago, but it wasn't that long ago. And it was supposed to last for a really long time. And I'm just wondering what the difference between that plan and now the new plan, which I'm sure is not inexpensive.
That's a great question. So if I understand your question, are you asking why are we choosing this treatment to put on this pavement? It seems like it was,
As well.
yes. I had a slide in here, so I don't want to get too engineering with you all this morning, but this is a curve that you see quite often in pavement management best practices. And the idea is that when our pavement is in pretty good condition, if we continue to do slurry seal projects and other resurfacing treatments that rejuvenate and preserve that asphalt, it's much more cost effective and it's a much better way to have higher quality pavements than if we let it deteriorate to the point where you just have to grind it all out and completely repave it. Those are very, very expensive projects to do that way. So what we're proposing is a pavement maintenance best management practice to put the slurry seal in and then extend that service life over and over and over. So you'll see us doing slurry on pavements that are actually in good condition. I liken it to painting your house or caulking around your windows. If you don't do that on a regular basis, cost effectively, your siding eventually wears out and it's very, very expensive to redo all of that. I want to go to this side of the room over here. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Speaking of roads, I'm wondering whether there's any talk about the somewhat new crosswalk between San Rafael High School and Montecito.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, I know that's not you. From my experience, I appreciate that there needs to be a crosswalk there, but the way it operates right now is not very efficient because pedestrians often cross before the light light even turns on, and the light doesn't turn off, and there's nobody there, so.
Okay, I appreciate that feedback. We'll make sure that our partners in San Rafael are aware of that, and then as we move forward with our Summit Avenue crosswalk, that's good information for us to know for the timing. Yes, sir, in the middle?
I just to follow up on that, because as long as that's a real traffic mess down there when the kids are coming in and going out of high school. I contacted the principal to see what they do about it, and they said they try to have staff observe. So, I mean, could there be something we can do as far as putting a crossing guard down there, because it is a road that's just totally disregarded.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, school drop-off and pickup zones are challenging. We'll relay that back to San Rafael so that they're aware. I want to go to the gentleman in the back, in the middle. Yes, sir.
Yeah, is there any possibility that you can include the section of the road that's not quite officially Point San Pedro, it's on 2nd Street, right when you get off the freeway in Irving United? It's a bad shape. I mean, there's 40 roads.
Thank you. I drove through that this morning on the way here. So the question was, could we include 2nd Street in the project? We'll connect with San Rafael on that as well. That's not the county's jurisdiction, but we could ask them. Yes, ma'am, up here.
Are you, the slurry seal that you're proposing, are you working with Dutra? Because I believe the trucks are creating some of the problems that we are experiencing on the road. So my question is this going to be improving? Are you working with Dutra?
We have been closely engaged with Dutra on the project and making sure that they're aware. The preventative maintenance project is really to go in and slurry over the top of the existing pavement that's out there, but we have been in close partnership with Dutra in the development of the project. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Supervisor. So when we've been meeting to develop the project, it has been with county staff, our engineering team, also the city of San Rafael, their public works department. Dutra has been there. Point San Pedro Road Coalition and the road committee.
Thank you,
have
Robert.
been involved. Thank you. In addition to some other folks. So we've really tried to bring together as many of representatives of the user groups out there as we can. Like I said, to find a solution that tries to balance all the needs of the roadway. And yes, sir.
So I just want to reiterate on the traffic problem in San Rafael High with that crosswalk. And I heard what you said and appreciate it. I know that I hear other neighbors tell me they call the school, call, I don't know about the supervisor, but nothing's been done for us. So it's not like, let's look into it. It's like, there is no button being pushed through these roads. Our housing, cars are honking, it's backed up. You folks are very concerned about our emissions. It's causing a lot of extra traffic. It's all out. You could wait there for 15 minutes and that because nobody is abiding by the mechanism that's put in place for everyone involved. So it seems like there should be some more urgency to that to get that curtailed.
Okay.
I'd like to know if you're able to work with the schools, get a cross guard out there, or what can actually happen.
Yeah, I hear you, and it seems like a lot of hands came up around that in particular. It's within the city jurisdiction and is a school district project, and I hear that there's some interest in having a deeper conversation. It's not within county jurisdiction. You know, as you come out this roadway, there's parts that's city, there's parts that's county, then it's city again, which makes it really complicated. And what I can say for the first time, not the first time, but right now we've got a really strong collaboration between the city and county to work on joint challenges, because we know, you know, if it wasn't that crosswalk, I was hearing similar complaints with smart impacts on your traffic as well. So we all have to work together, and I think we've got a really good collaborative team to address these challenges that cross jurisdictional lines. So I hear you, and we can take it back and really try to have a broader conversation, and also make sure as we do these other projects, it's not exacerbating the issue. But it's not within the county jurisdiction. It's not one that we built, so we certainly, and I don't know what the challenges are. There's regulations and so forth, so can't answer to all of those issues, but I hear and I feel frustration in this room, absolutely.
only have one.
Your city council is here, so they're gonna speak later today as well. Maribeth Bushey, our council member, is right behind you. She's waving her hand at you, right behind you, so, yes.
The other thing I
So there's a whole bunch, you want me to take one more question? There's a bunch of hands raised. How about the guy right behind you?
Yeah, the pavement is very noisy, both when you're in the car and for those of us that live next to it. The slurs are quieter, or is there any concern about the noise on the roadway itself?
Yeah, thank
Especially
you.
within the trucks and.
So we're expecting that the slurry would reduce the noise. Some of the noise that you hear is cars driving over potholes and the rattling and the impact from that. So as we fix those potholes with the dig out work and then come through with the slurry, it'll smooth out the surface a little bit more than what it is right now. I think, managing expectations, it's not going to instantly get quieter, but I think it should reduce some of the noise and impact that you hear from that.
Can I add that in 2016, the Point San Pedro Road was repaved with open graded asphalt, which absorbs sound.
That's right.
And now you're going to slurry seal, which fills in all of those little pockets. It's more of an aerated, which absorbs sound and vibration. Now it's going to be filled in with slurry seal.
Yeah, so that's correct. We've done quite a bit of research, our engineering team has, and one of the things that they found is that the noise attenuation, there's been studies of the open graded asphalt. The noise attenuation actually decreases quite a bit as time goes on. It decreases pretty significantly in the first few years. It gets filled up, with material and stuff on the roadway, and it just doesn't function the way that it did. So this project probably won't restore it back to what it was back when it was originally paved, but we do expect to see some noise reduction as a part of it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I knew we needed the roadway people here, so glad they're here, and we'll turn back to Dr. Lucy.
Thank you. Thank our county leadership for your service, for your Thank you so much. And as everybody is leaving, and I'm going to say a few words, we're going to sing Happy Birthday to Mary. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mary. Happy birthday to you. You're welcome. So we probably had an entire session with the county, right, and the city. So I'd like to move forward with presentations by coalition committee reports. And I'd like to have John Windsor come on up. I just wanted to also recognize our treasurer, Kevin Haggerty. There you go. Thank you so much for the work you do. There's so much work that you put in, Kevin. Thank you so much. Katie Miller is our secretary. There you go, Katie. Thank you so much, Katie, for taking so much of your life involved with the coalition. So, John, take us forward.
Thank you. Good morning. As you know, we have a potential situation in our area with one road going through China Camp on one end of our corridor and out the other end past the high school. So we have one way in, one way out, and we could easily be isolated. And so many years ago, we started planning for what happens if there's a major earthquake. We like to think that we will plan for the worst and hope for the best, but the worst could happen. And so we have kind of oriented our disaster program toward that. If there was a major earthquake in our area, we have the risk of the freeway being impassable, we have the risk of the bridges being impassable, we have the risk of our road liquefying in certain areas, and we could be isolated. We could be isolated for some period of time. And we've seen that around the country when they've had major hurricanes. It's taken weeks for the Red Cross and other public outside services to get in and really bring services. We have one fire department that's Station 55. It has maybe 2 or 3 people stationed there at any given time. If the worst happened, that would be our total resource. So we began planning for how we could operate independently for some period of time. We received grants from the county, and also we had donations coming in from the community. We bought 2 large catches of medical supplies, one of which is in a big red trailer you've probably seen. and the other is a shed at San Pedro Cove. So we're capable at this point of setting up 2 triage centers that could provide medical services to our community. The part that's missing, and we're going to be working on this coming year, is identifying all of the medical personnel that live in our areas who potentially could respond in an emergency and use the supplies we already have. There are also, those supplies are backups to the paramedics that are at the fire department. So that's one of our programs. The more likely situation too that we're going to have is a wildfire. And we're working very hard to prepare our community for wildfire. Earlier this spring, we had about 60 people attend a seminar that we had with the city fire department, with the FireWise leaders of our community, and also the state insurance commissioner. And it's all kind of tied together. For example, San Pedro Cove became a FireWise community this last year. I received an $80 refund from State Farm because I sent them a certificate saying we were a FireWise community. So there are rebates available. All the insurance companies have to give a discount if you're a FireWise community. We would like every neighborhood to become FireWise in our area. The upper part of that is that if there's a fire, being FireWise and having a proper defensible zone around your home allows the fire department to defend your home, stop the fire. It's less likely your house is going to burn. So there's major benefit to it. And that's kind of the second thing we did this past spring is we had the fire department, the city fire department, come in and do a presentation in this room to, again, about 70, 80 people about how they can make their home more defensible, how they can evacuate if they had to evacuate, how they can be notified. All those things are still things that we're going to be working on this coming year. We'll have another similar session with the fire department this spring, late spring, in preparation for the fire season. We'll be doing more work with all of our neighborhoods to try to get them to be FireWise. So we're looking for volunteers. I see many members of our committee out here. Thank you for coming. Very often I find we do preach to the choir. Many of you I've seen before. You're dedicated, you come to these meetings, but we always get some new people too. So if you have an interest in joining our committee, being part of it, we'd love to have you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Robert Sandoval is going to talk about the Roadway Committee.
Thanks, Denise. All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Robert Sandoval, Roadway Committee Chair. I'm going to talk about that, but I also wanted to just mention I'm also a San Rafael Park and Recreation Commissioner and wanted to highlight the work that we did in Peacock Gap Playground this year. If anyone's been seeing the new playground, I'm very proud of that work as well. So, 2025 has been a really productive year for our Roadway Committee. We've already covered the slurry seal project, which is probably the big one, scheduled for 2026. So I won't focus too much on that. I'll just say that we'll continue to work with the city and county on that project. We're really looking forward to being partners throughout that project next year. We also have a median subcommittee, and this year we worked with the city DPW to focus on what is the long-term plan to improve our irrigation system in the medians. A lot of the complaints we receive from our neighbors are that plants are dead or dying, and that has a lot to do with the irrigation system, so we're focusing on how we can improve irrigation in the medians. That is ongoing work, so if anyone wants to work on improving the look of our medians, please reach out to me and we can work on that together. And the thing I want to focus on most is really crosswalk safety. The county mentioned it a little bit. It's kind of being paired with the slurry seal project. But a few months ago, our committee wrote a Marin IJ article advocating for safer crosswalks at night and Point San Pedro. And I got a call from April Miller, who's the head of DPW, saying, "We hear you, we want to apply for this grant funding for light up crosswalks." And I'm, I guess, here to announce that that was awarded, the funding was awarded, which is why it's part of the project with the slurry seal. And these are just to clarify, like these are the ground level bars, light bars on the existing sign. So we're not going to be seeing like huge overhead lights being put all along the roadway. And you know, we've advocated for this for years. This is one of the main reasons I joined the coalition actually in 2023, was to try to get safer crosswalks for our families. So I'm just really excited to share that that funding was secured. And I want to take a moment to just recognize our stakeholders that made this all possible. So we have Octavia Manelli, I don't see her here today, but she's a volunteer with Safe Routes to Schools. Danica Patrick, president of Glenwood Neighbors. Mike Wolpert, president of Peacock FHOA. Jonathan Freeman, San Rafael DPW Director April Miller, Supervisor Mary Sackett and her aide Crystal Martinez. We have Councilmember Maribeth Bushey, thank you, Mayor Kate, and then also the Transportation Authority of Marin, which voted and granted our funding. So that's it for me, and really looking forward to getting all these projects done in 2026.
So much, Robert. Really great success. Hey, David, come on up. David Gess is our Communications Committee Chair.
Hello, David Gess. I'm the new chair of the Communications Committee, which Alan Shavitz has been doing for about over 20 years. So I got involved because I was helping with the Coalition Broom Poles, which is something, as I've been hiking around and seeing all the broom, it's you know, John didn't talk about it in his report, but you know, from a disaster prep and fire prevention standpoint, you know, it's really important to pull the broom. So that's something that you know, I feel passionate about. But then, as I got involved with organizing those, I learned that there was a large vacuum on the communications committee. So here I am. It's a committee of one. So if any of you are interested in helping, I'd love to have some more help as I'm figuring out more about what's all involved. So I thought I would answer for you just two questions. First is, you know, how can I learn more about what's happening, right? I mean, you're all here at the annual community meeting, so that's a good start. But what about the other 364 days during the year, right? So for that, you can go to our website, sprcoalition.org, and there we generally post things as they occur. Not a lot, you know, I've looked in the past year, it's been sort of 1 to 2 posts per month. Many of those will then send out emails, and so if you're interested in signing up for the email list, go to the Contact Us website. We're not going to flood your inbox. Like I said, it's only a few a month. And that way, if you're not going to the website periodically to check and see the post, you'll get some alerts to those things that are happening. Also under the Contact Us, there's you can contact a committee member. So if you have questions about disaster prep or about the roadways, you can just go in there, fill out a little form, ask your question, and it'll automatically get routed to the right person. And then the other thing on the website is history, past activities, and events. So let's say you want to learn more in depth about what's going on at Quarry or what's been going on with the roadways. There's lots of information on there. So whether you're new to the subject or you just want a refresher, that's the place to go. We have a YouTube channel. This meeting is being recorded. Other presentations have been recorded, and that's where you can find that information. There's lots in the About Us. There's lots about the board, the committees, but also area history. If any of you maybe have photos or other interesting history tidbits, we'd be happy to post those as well, so just let us know. And then Under the Resources tab, there's links to the county, the city, Greater Marin, China Canada, all sorts of things. So if you're just looking for links to neighborhood associations, and then finally a button to donate if you want to help support the activities and our expenses. So that's it for me.
So much there. This is a remarkable website that Alan Hewlett's developed and maintained for all these years, and thank you, David, for stepping forward and really making it even better. So I'm going to talk about the Quarry Committee. I have some slides to cover with you. So the Quarry Committee is really talking about the issues of CRH. CRH is the new company. Have you heard about this? That CRH purchased the rock quarry portion, the Dutra's own land. It's a large-scale industrial operation here in our neighborhood. And it impacts our community, of course, as we all live here. In 2021, the county granted an extension of its operations and to wait to complete reclamation, and I'll talk about that, until 2044. And reclamation is a plan to bring that land back to use that was after mining was done. So the coalition and Quarry came together and agreed on 3 specific areas to concentrate on for this 20-year extension. They are air monitoring, roadway maintenance, and wetlands. So regarding air monitoring, so air monitoring was required as part of the Quarry permit conditions of approval. And they did compliant testing of air back in the former permit and did not exceed state and federal thresholds. However, the current permit does have discretion to require air monitoring in the future. So the Quarry leadership and the coalition leadership agreed to consider benchmarks for future air monitoring, and we are currently underway with these conversations. So we are going to figure out together when should we continue or restart air monitoring. So we're working in coordination with the Quarry leadership. And also CRH brings some great experience because they have a huge company worldwide and they have new technologies they feel will reduce emissions. So we're optimistic about this and hopeful. Regarding the roadway. Come on, roadway, it's not working either.
Click again.
Okay. So, the roadway. So the Quarry leadership and the coalition are meeting to discuss the roadway maintenance. This is part of our agreement to do so, and to accommodate the 20 future years of using heavy trucks on our roads. So we together met with the Marin County and the San Rafael city planners. We just heard Chris Blunk's report on this. We were there at that meeting together with the Quarry leadership. So although the slurry seals plan for San Pedro Road in spring of 26, we continue to advocate for more long-term solutions that mitigate truck noise and provide environmental benefits, which is open-graded asphalt, which is in the future, which Chris mentioned. Okay, so roadway traffic. Have you experienced the roadway traffic? You have? So, in 2025, the truck traffic has increased to close to the limit of 125 round trip per day maximum. Do you understand what that means? Any questions about this? 125 trucks in, 125 trucks out, each day maximum. It was in the 300 and 400 20 years ago. So we really have contained that. Complaints about truck caravanning have happened, and I received those complaints. So we are in discussions with the Quarry about how to develop some strategies to reduce the truck caravanning. Let me back up a second, because we're missing a slide here that I had, David, which was, I have reported every complaint to Amy Dutra, who has asked me to do so, of course, and I have her phone number in this slide. I'll make sure that we pull that up before we finish. And she has welcomingly said, please let me know about these complaints, and then she is responding as well, and those complaints are also sent by me to the County of Marin. Okay. So we're talking about, with the quarry, how can we fix this drug traffic caravanning? Going out of the quarry, it's mandated 2-minute intervals. Coming into the quarry, there is no mandate. So that is complicating. They are clients and customers of the quarry, but the quarry and the coalition are meeting to figure out what can we do to try to really get a control of this caravanning. Wetlands. So the coalition and the CRH quarry have aligned to protect our shorelines and our marshes from the impacts of sea level rise, and to work together to plan for that. So the coalition has received complaints about the pronounced odors from the marsh. Have you experienced that in this last season? So we did report that, and both the quarry and to the county. And Amy has, I'm sorry about this, Amy is, let me fix this. Can I fix this, David? So you can see that? I want to see Amy's name. Anyway, Amy Dutra has been in these conversations with us, and she has asked also, please be informed, so I've sent her these complaints. And so the quarry consultant, WRA, reported to us that the marsh requires flooding periodically. And it's common for marshes to have an odor, it's a sulfur cycle. And that having a smell of the marshes is normal, but the pronouncedness, according to WRA, was because of heat spells that we had and prolonged the odors. So we are in discussion on how can we avoid this next time, so that we can get this under control. And so the quarry was involved with conversations with us. Also, the marsh restoration plan will be described by Winifred in the next report. So I'd like to bring Winifred back up and talk with us about the wetlands. Winifred? Oh! She was... You're funny. There you go.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Winifred Dejani. I'm the chair of the Wetlands Committee. So where are our wetlands and why are they important? Well, we have several large parcels of wetlands all along the Point San Pedro corridor, and the largest of which is the 55-acre parcel that is adjacent to the quarry. And they're important because they are very effective filters for our water, and they also sequester carbon very effectively. And increasingly important is their role as a habitat for the wildlife, not least of which are the birds. We're in the Pacific Flyway, so we have a lot of birds migrating overhead, and they depend on these parcels of wetlands to restore themselves and feed themselves. So we have two components on the Wetlands Committee, and one is advocacy. So to the best of our capacity, we like to advocate to protect and restore our wetlands to the extent that we're able to. And then we have an educational capacity, so we have yearly events to raise awareness, not just about the wetlands, but just like ecosystems are a very extensive net, so things that are related to the wetlands. And so I'm going to speak first to the advocacy to pick up where Denise left off. So over the course of several years, we have been, the Quarry team and the Wetlands Committee has been in discussion with the responsibles of the quarry about reviewing and getting a third-party assessment. They have an ongoing restoration plan of their wetlands now, and it's basically focused on removing invasive plants and then restoring a lot of native plantings, which has been successful. We were thinking that we would like to see if there were other measures that they could do to maybe increase some of the vitality, in addition to what they're already doing. And so in discussion with the quarry, they did agree to engage a third party, which was Dr. Stuart Siegel, who's an expert on wetlands restoration throughout the county. He's done work in Sonoma, and so they did engage him to do a third-party review. And it took a few years, but he did come back with a very extensive report, and he identified several opportunities, ranging from the least complex to the most complex, from the least expensive to the most expensive, and presented it to the Quarry. And then we met with them a few months ago, and for the time being, the Quarry and their environmental consultant, which is WRA, has decided that for the time being, just because of the recommendations they think would involve extensive regulatory and permitting requirements and financial considerations, that for the time being, they're not going to pursue his recommendations. But they're remaining open to future discussions when perhaps a larger ranging initiative would take place with a broader consortium of agencies and funding, and maybe some of the opportunities identified would be able to be considered if the Quarry had additional maybe partners in such a thing. So that's where we stand with the Quarry Marsh right now. He's the largest parcel. And then, so as far as the educational component, we've done several programs this year that were very interesting. We did 2 wildlife-related presentations. We had Matt Reeder from Point View Conservation Science, who's very involved with a project called the Migratory Shorebird Project. And they work in collaboration. It's actually a transnational initiative, and because these birds, as I mentioned, we're in the Pacific Flyway, they travel yearly, thousands of birds, all the way from the Arctic, all the way down to the tip of South America, and so they have to stop along the way, refresh themselves, and so they've coordinated with groups all along these different countries, and they've set up initiatives to restore habitat, they trained team leadership, so that was very exciting. And then we had another program about bats, and we had Jessie Bunkley from Bat Conservation International speak, and she really enlightened everybody that attended, because even though these mammals exist worldwide, except for in Antarctica, people know very little bit about them. There's a lot of negative stereotyping, which she dispelled. And she explained how important they are to our ecosystems. They're amazing at insect control, pollinators, and unfortunately they're also threatened. So she showed ways that perhaps people that are interested in these incredible mammals to get involved in helping them, fight off all these threats that they're faced with. So if you're interested in wetlands or nature in general, we always welcome new members to our committee. You can just go on the website that David was showing you, and just to send us an email. And we meet bi-monthly, and we'd love to have more people that really value our wildlife and our wetlands to be part of our group. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone's service. Appreciate it. Can we do one more time? We're all volunteers, by the way. All of us. Yay! We have a wonderful presentation by Christina Toms, and we're just looking forward to it so very much. The Point San Beda Road, China Camp, and opportunities to support nature-based adaptation along our road. Thank you so much for being here, Christina.
There's the clicker. All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Christina Toms. I'm an ecosystem restoration engineer with the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board. We are a regulatory agency, division of the California EPA. I've been at the water board for over a decade. Before that, I spent 12 years in private practice as a consultant, and actually worked with, I just heard Dr. Stuart Siegel's name mentioned. He was my mentor for about 7 years. I worked here for his company, Wetlands and Water Resources, right in downtown San Rafael. So lovely to be speaking with you all. I'm going to be talking to everyone today. I'm really happy to follow up the wetlands talk, because I'm going to be talking about wetlands, and I'm also going to be talking about beaches, and specifically how we can work with nature to adapt to the effects of climate change, specifically rising sea levels and more extreme storms. So I'm going to start with a brief introduction to the San Francisco estuary and its bayland habitats, especially around Point San Pedro. I'm going to discuss how colonization and climate change are impacting the resilience of the region's shorelines and habitats, again with a focus on this region. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how tiny camps habitats can inform the development of some really cohesive, equitable strategies for climate adaptation along Point San Pedro Road. And I've set this up so that we're going to try to have time at the end for questions, so keep your brains engaged. So the San Francisco estuary is the largest watershed on the west coast of the United States. It has a watershed of about 60,000 square miles. Again, the largest estuary on the Pacific coast. It contains 50% of California's freshwater and 90% of California's coastal wetlands. So I want you to remember that whenever in California we're talking about coastal wetland enhancement, 90% of those wetlands and the vast majority of those opportunities are right here in the San Francisco estuary. I serve as a resource statewide for a number of agencies, not just the San Francisco Bay Water Board. I work up on the North Coast, I work down in the Central Coast. And folks statewide are very envious of the habitats and the wetland resources that we have up here. So we're really, really fortunate to have them. The estuary also provides it's home to over 7 million people in the Bay Area, but critically it provides drinking water for 25 million people, and that's largely through the replumbing of the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, which exports a lot of water down to Southern California. In 1800, this is a map of what the baylands look like in San Francisco Bay. When I use the term baylands, that refers to the habitats that were formerly between roughly the low tide and high tide elevations along the edge of the estuary. These are the lower lying areas. And fortunately, we have really accurate maps of what these habitats used to look like. Thanks to mapping that was done in the mid-1800s by the U.S. Coast Survey, which was a predecessor to the modern-day U.S. Geological Survey and National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. We have these extremely accurate maps down to the tiny little tidal channels. We know what those habitats look like. And so prior to Western colonization of this area, we had almost 200,000 acres of tidal wetlands around the estuary. We had about a little over 50,000 acres of tidal mudflats. So if you see here on the map, can everyone see? Do we need to turn the lights down at all? Can folks see well enough? Yeah, you can see? Okay, great. So everything that's mapped in green, that used to be tidal wetlands. Everything that you see that's brown, that used to be tidal mudflats. So those are those unvegetated flats that are exposed at low tide. And roughly 2,000 acres of natural salt ponds. And these were largely found here along the eastern edge of the Central Bay, where you have a lot of wave action that causes those ponds to form. Critically, these marshes were what we call complete tidal wetlands. And this refers to the connectivity of these habitats to both habitats that are above the elevation of the tides and below the elevation of the tides. So in this diagram here, you see here's the tidal wetland right here. Mature tidal wetlands in the San Francisco estuary are at roughly the elevation of mean higher high water. So that's the average elevation of our higher high tides that happen every day. And those complete tidal wetlands were connected to uplands. They had these really nice transition zones. They were connected to upland grasslands and woodlands. They were connected to streams and floodplains. So they could receive big doses of fresh water and sediment from watersheds. And they were also connected to habitats lower in the tidal frame, like eelgrass beds and oyster reefs. We have relatively few examples of complete tidal marshes left in the estuary, but the marshes that do persist, that have these characteristics, they have complex channel networks, they have a lot of microtopography. Remember, when your ecology is governed by the tides coming in and out twice every single day, very tiny changes in elevation can result in big differences in habitats and ecosystem function, the plants that live there, the animals. Diverse substrates, so since these complete tidal wetlands were connected to watersheds and streams, they had coarse sediment that was coming out of those watersheds during floods that deposited on the marsh plain. And this created a lot of biodiversity, a lot of habitat diversity and resilience. And critically, because all of these habitats were connected to each other, they really responded to changes of environmental drivers. And essentially what that means is Habitats love mess. Nature is messy, right? Nature wants to be connected, heterogeneous, and wants to respond dynamically to changing conditions. So historically, this is what those habitats look like around Point San Pedro. You can see that around the lower portions of Galenas Creek, there were extensive tidal wetlands, again shown here in green, the mudflats shown in blue. Here down along the southern edge of Point San Pedro, you had some really extensive mudflats that extended all the way between the shoreline to the Marin Islands, which is pretty notable, and then extensive tidal wetlands in what is now the Canal District, as well as Peacock Gap. That's right, the golf course used to be a tidal marsh. This is that mapping that I mentioned from the mid-1800s. This is the Coast Survey T-sheet. This is of the China Camp portion. You can see here's a Turtleback Hill, and here's the island down here. This is what everything looked like in the 1800s. And here's what everything looks like now. So this is new mapping from a program that I helped run called the San Francisco Estuary Wetlands Regional Monitoring Program. This is, we just won an award for this mapping effort at the State of the Estuary Conference. I'm really proud of it. And we just did a new, oh, thank you. I love it when people clap for maps. It's great, right? But who doesn't love a good map, right? Because maps show us about the places where we live, the places where we care about. And so this is the first effort to, the first time that habitats in the estuary have been comprehensively mapped since 2009. We have developed a very innovative, cutting-edge technique that uses aerial imagery and LiDAR, which is light detection and ranging. That's when you get elevations from firing lasers out of the sky, and it bounces back, and it sounds crazy, but it's actually really cool. And we actually just did a low-tide LiDAR flight of the entire estuary. And so we're going to release new mapping and do change detection for this next year. So stay tuned. We're going to have, I think, in early 2026, some new maps. So, but what this shows us is that the impacts of Western colonization and development in the estuary have been pretty devastating to the baleen habitats. So as of 2020, we have roughly 54,000 acres of tidal wetlands, and this includes areas that are wetland restoration projects that maybe haven't quite vegetated yet. And so we're a little more than halfway towards our total. There's this big effort called the Balin's Ecosystem Habitat Goals, where a lot of the partners in the estuary, including my agency, have aimed for a target of 100,000 acres of tidal wetlands in the bay, roughly half what we used to have historically. And so we're roughly halfway towards that target. We have 30,000 acres of tidal mudflats and 11,000 acres of artificial salt ponds. Those are largely concentrated here down in the Cargo salt ponds in the South Bay. Most of the former salt ponds in the North Bay and Napa-Sonoma Baylands have been restored to tidal wetlands. And this is what our habitats around Point San Pedro look like now. You can see that there's still the tidal marsh at China Camp, some extensive mudflats. A lot of these habitats actually formed on sediment that washed out of the Sierra Nevadas from hydraulic gold mining. There was this giant slug of sediment that moved through the estuary and is still slowly kind of working its way through. The big pulse has passed, and so we're in a situation where we have a lot less sediment than we used to have. I'll show a graph of that. But that big slug of sediment caused a lot of marshes and mudflats to form outboard of the existing marshes at China Camp. But you can see here down along the southern portion of Point San Pedro, a lot of that mudflat that you used to have here between the shoreline and Marin Islands has eroded. And now there's just these narrow bands of mudflat here, Brickyard Cove, and at the mouth of the Canal District. And I think I have there we go. So now you can kind of see the change between those historic habitats. This is pre-colonization, and then what things look like now. Yeah, and this is all available. If you want to look at this for yourself, this is all publicly available on a website called ecoatlas.org. It's a really powerful platform. Write it down or email me and I'll send you the links to all of these resources, but you can take a look at your particular area of interest. There's a lot of terrific data on EcoAtlas. That's hosted by the San Francisco Estuary Institute. I would be derelict if I did not mention them. They are a key science partner of the Water Board and a lot of other agencies in the area, and one of the best parts of my job is that I get to work with them a lot. So China Camp, so here's an aerial image. You can see how that transition zone, so remember before when I was talking about the complete marsh, I talked about the importance of that connectivity between marsh habitats and upland habitats and streams. And here at China Camp, that's largely been cut off by Point San Pedro Road. And you all know this, it floods during king tides. And so that's a hazard for public safety, but it also really impacts the resilience of this marsh long term, because that marsh is disconnected from that transition zone. It's disconnected from these watersheds that pour into the marsh here at Miwok Meadows and here at Back Ranch, and that has an impact on the long-term resilience of the system. Also, another one of the effects of colonization is that we've seen a lot of subsidence in our dike baylands. So these wetland soils, they're used to being inundated twice a day by the tides. That limits the amount of oxidation that can occur. So when you dry out those soils, they get oxidized. It means they literally disappear. They turn into thin air. They turn into carbon dioxide. And so they sink relative to the elevations of non-wetland areas around them. And if you've ever driven through the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, you've been on a road, you see the farm field 30 feet below you. We have a less extreme version of that in all of our dike baylands in the Bay Area. And so this map here, this is available through another mapping platform hosted by SFEI called the Baylands Resilience Metrics. This shows you the elevations. So basically, everything that's green or blue is, the blues are subtidal, so those are below the elevations of low tides. The greens are within tidal elevations, and the yellows and the pinks are above tidal elevations. But as you all well know, San Pedro Road is right along the edge of where the tides are now, and it is most certainly within the elevation range of where the tides will be in the future. Here's a map from a report that many of you have probably seen that the San Francisco Bay NER, again, Dr. Stuart Siegel, developed together with the Point San Pedro Road Coalition. So this shows the areas of Point San Pedro Road at China Camp that are at lower elevations that are prone to inundation during existing king tides and during future sea level rise. So we've observed 8 inches of sea level rise in the past 100 years. This is from the gauge at the Golden Gate. This is the longest tide gauge record on the west coast of the United States. We have it right here at the Golden Gate. And the projections are not great. So this is the latest guidance from the California Ocean Protection Council. This is their sea level rise scenario guidance, again for the Golden Gate. And so you can see that for our intermediate scenarios and above, we're looking at it at least 3.5 and quite possibly much more sea level rise by the end of the century. And we expect those rates of relative sea level rise to really start to accelerate in the second half of this century. The climate has a lot of momentum. I'm not going to really don't have time to get into the details, but we've already released so many greenhouse gases into the atmosphere that even if we were to completely stop all those emissions right now, there's still enough in the atmosphere where that system has momentum and it's going to continue to raise rates of sea level rise. So I mentioned that we have decreasing sediment supply. So this is a graph showing the amount of sediment that was working its way through the estuary. The data set starts in the early 90s. And essentially what we saw is that after the 90s, and this has continued in as far as I'm aware, our modern data collection, we've seen roughly a 3rd step decrease in the amount of sediment that's working its way through the estuary, because now we have the delta, it's plumbed, we have all of these flood control and water supply reservoirs in the Sierra Nevada, so all the sediment that used to be washing out of the Sierras and into our rivers and streams and into the estuary is now getting caught behind those reservoirs. And so that has an impact on the amount of sediment that's available to support our bayland habitats, to support our marshes, our wetlands, our beaches. This is modeling that my colleague Lisa Sheely-Beers did over a decade ago, which I can't believe how long it's been. But she essentially modeled the effects of different amounts of suspended sediment and different rates of sea level rise on the marsh at China Camp. And what she found is that in modeled scenarios with high rates of sea level rise, roughly equivalent to what we could expect to see much later this century, and low amounts of suspended sediment, that the marsh at China Camp could be vulnerable to converting to a completely unvegetated mudflat by the end of the century. So this is really important to understand because sediment is one of the key management tools that we can use. It's one of the key knobs and dials that we can turn to manage our shoreline habitats. So I want to discuss some science-driven approaches to shoreline adaptation. This is I hope you found the science interesting, but what do we do with it, right? How do we insert it into our decision-making processes? So I want to urge folks to go to the SFEI website. These are a ton of resources that myself and my colleagues have advised and developed. This is the OPC sea level rise guidance that I mentioned. This is the Wetlands Ecosystem Habitat Goals report. This is an update on the wetlands and climate change. So this is a report that came out in 2015 that talked about the new strategies that we'll have to use in light of climate change to keep our wetlands healthy and resilient. This is the San Francisco Bay Shoreline Adaptation Atlas. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in depth in a minute. This is Sediment for Survival report. This is essentially an accounting of the supply and demand of sediment in the system that demonstrates how we can adjust that sediment knob and dial to manage our shorelines. I'm going to talk about this one in a minute, New Life for Eroding Shorelines. This is a report on beneficial reuse of treated wastewater to create nature-based infrastructure along shorelines. This report is about the beneficial reuse of dredged sediment, and this is about reconnecting creeks to baylands. All of these are important tools in our toolbox. So it's really important to think landscape scale. So one of the things the San Francisco Bay Shoreline Adaptation Atlas does is it breaks down the shoreline of San Francisco Bay, which is managed by over 100 different municipalities, special districts, JPAs. It takes that complex political jurisdiction and breaks it down into shoreline planning units that respond to governing physical processes. And that's so important when we think about climate adaptation. Sea level rise and more extreme storms, they are not respecting the boundary between county land and city land, or between one city and another, right? These are processes that span jurisdictions. And so if we're adapting to more extreme storms and climate and sea level rise, if we're adapting to climate change, we need to plan across parcels and jurisdictions. And that's hard, right? You're a cross-boundary coalition. You understand how difficult it is to get neighbors to work together sometimes, but it's really, really critical. So what the shoreline does is it breaks the entire shoreline of San Francisco Bay down into 30 what we call operational landscape units, which are kind of like a watershed but for the shoreline. And then it takes each of these units and pairs them with a suite of nature-based adaptation strategies that help shorelines adapt to rising sea levels. Why the focus on nature-based adaptation measures? Well, you saw the loss of habitats and the habitats that we're trying to recover throughout the estuary. But also we know that gray infrastructure, I'm at 1 minute or 5 minutes?
For 20 minutes total.
Oh, wow, okay, all right. Well, I'm going to turn the jersey on and talk a little quickly. So we pair each of these units with a suite of nature-based adaptation measures that are more resilient to rising sea levels, can cost less than gray infrastructure, provide a lot more co-benefits, and help us recover those lost habitats. It's important to think long-term. Phase adaptation pathways, this is a technique that helps us identify near-term adaptation measures that don't get in the way of the necessary long-term measures. And these allow us to develop those strategies and to address uncertainty, allow for flexibility over time, basically using thresholds of sea level rise instead of arbitrary temporal thresholds as a decision-making point. And it's important to think dynamic, not static. We want to reconnect these habitats, give them room to move and adjust. Places are only resilient as the processes that connect them. So think nature-based. When we're adapting to sea level rise, again, we want to focus on nature-based solutions like oyster reefs and eelgrass beds, cobble gravel beaches at Aramuru Island, restore tidal wetlands at Hamilton. Here's an example of creek bayland reconnection in Lower Walnut Creek. This is a project in the Novato Baylands that is beneficially reusing sediment dredged from the Novato Creek Flood Control Channel and using it to raise the elevation of subsided diked baylands near Novato that are slated for tidal wetland restoration. Here's a treated wastewater seepage slope. This is what we call a horizontal levee at the Oraloma Wastewater Treatment Plant down in the Central Bay. And we can also restore migration space, like this project did at Spring Branch Creek. This is a project in Sassoon Marsh at Rush Ranch. Really quickly, I'm going to go a little bit over because then we have 5 minutes for questions instead of 10, if you'll indulge me. I really want to emphasize this report. This is New Life for Eroding Shorelines. This was developed together with Roger Leventhal, an engineer from Marin County Public Works. And what this report specifically focuses on is the beaches at China Camp. So we love China Camp for its wetlands, but probably less celebrated are the beaches that you find over at Rat Rock Cove and over at China Camp Village. These are some of the last remaining coarse estuarine beaches in the region. We've lost most of our wetlands and we've probably lost even more of our beaches. And these are really critical because these are a nature-based adaptation measure, particularly for wave-vulnerable environments. And so for the southern edge of Point San Pedro, where you have a lot of wave energy from swell coming through the Golden Gate, from winds moving back and forth through the Golden Gate, this is a really key piece of the puzzle. We can use beaches as nature-based shoreline protection. So here's a graphic showing an example of an eroding marsh scarp that can be fronted with a coarse gravel beach. That gravel beach moves in response to wave action. It guards the edge of the marsh from erosion. It provides habitat. And we have a couple examples of these systems that we've created or restored throughout the estuary. But China Camp and its beaches are a really key reference system. And I'll note that in the Adaptation Atlas, if you see this thin kind of beige band here, we've done the science, and basically most of this shoreline is suitable for coarse beaches. And I want to specifically highlight Brickyard Cove west of the quarry, that particularly that segment where there's that big rock revetment right next to the road. I've been out there with a number of my engineering and scientist colleagues, and we think that that area in particular is a fabulous location to potentially rework that revetment, place some coarse gravel, have an estuarine beach there, create a resource for the community, create habitat for resident migratory shorebirds. Who doesn't love a beach, right? Is there anyone here that prefers a revetment to a beach? Okay, just making sure. I mean, you never know in community meetings. There's always that one guy. So I just, this is some food for thought, to think creatively about how you can work with nature to help improve the flood resilience of Point San Pedro Road, particularly through that area. I'm going to skip this. This is an adaptation framework. This is another document that you can find on the SFEI website. This is a method for thinking about, as a community, how you develop your adaptation strategies. It goes through these steps of vulnerability assessment, community engagement, identifying alternative futures. And a lot of this work has already been done for Point San Pedro Road on the north side of the point through China Camp, through this work that was done with the San Francisco Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. I do climate adaptation throughout the entire state. I really have to hand it to the Point San Pedro Road Coalition for engaging with the NER on this project. This is one of the best examples I've ever seen of community-based from the ground up co-development of adaptation strategies. So if you worked on this, give yourself a pat on the back, because I think this is one of the finer examples I've ever seen. So to conclude, colonization has dramatically impacted the habitats and the health and the resilience of the Point San Pedro shoreline. It's placed a lot of infrastructure in communities in vulnerable locations. Climate change is increasing flood risks, and it's impacting the ability of natural habitats to buffer shorelines from rising sea levels and more extreme storms. Long-term, landscape-scale, nature-based frameworks, they are key to developing cohesive, effective, and equitable climate change adaptation strategies. Watershed wetland reconnection, road improvements, and coarse beaches, those are really key strategies that can help protect Point San Pedro Road and the communities that rely on it. Thank you so much. Yes.
So this is fascinating, thank you. It's obviously very complicated. The two wetlands that I see close up are the one by the quarry and then the one south of Larkspur Landing. To me, they look kind of dead. And am I not seeing something, or do these need to be?
Well, I will say that it is winter, so they're not going to look as great.
I looked at it for years.
Yeah.
The vegetation looks dead. You don't see too many birds. You see a couple egrets.
Yeah, so, you know, the wetland by the quarry, so it was really interesting to follow the discussion of the wetlands and the hydrogen sulfide. So when you have my understanding of the hydrology of that quarry, because I actually worked on it with Stuart a little bit, 15 years ago when I was a consultant. There's a tide gate that manages the flows in and out. Tidal marshes, that water is supposed to come in and out of a marsh twice a day, more or less, depending on the elevation. When you don't let a wetland drain, basically you have, I really don't want to get too much into the biogeochemistry, but the system loses oxygen. And so it starts using sulfide as an electron acceptor, and that's why you get hydrogen sulfide production. And so essentially, when you have wetlands with healthier hydrology, where the tides are allowed to move in and out every single day, you're going to get less hydrogen sulfide production because that marsh is draining, it's being exposed to air, it's getting oxygenated. So I could talk about the biogeochemistry for a long time, but essentially, if that marsh, particularly at the quarry, had the tides moving in and out more often, you wouldn't get you would have fewer of those water quality issues, you would have fewer of the hydrogen sulfide.
But it looks like the vegetation's not even long.
Well, because that's the other thing, because the wetland plants are used to the tides coming in and out, and so when you just keep the water there, even wetland plants can drown. So if they're experiencing hydrology that's different from what they evolved to tolerate, they're going to start to drown. And that's what's happening in a lot of our marshes throughout the estuary, even those marshes that are tidal, where they're low in the tidal frame, because of rising sea level, they're getting inundated more often for longer at greater depths, and that's causing the vegetation to drown and die, and then those marshes convert to unvegetated mudflat. So this is why as an engineer, I really key in on those physical processes, on the hydrology, because that's so key to the health of these wetlands and to their resilience into the future.
So is it something physically we're doing to prevent the tidal flow twice a day, or is it just sea level rise?
Specifically at the quarry, I believe there's a tide gate, there's some kind of water control structure. But throughout the entire estuary, it's rising sea levels. Rising sea levels are increasing the inundation stress on our marshes, and where they don't have enough sediment to keep pace with those rising sea levels, they're going to start to drown and downshift. So that's one of the guiding questions of that Wetlands Regional Monitoring Program that I mentioned earlier that I help run. That's one of the reasons we're trying to do this high frequency, high accuracy mapping, is to identify where are the marshes keeping pace with sea level rise, where are they not keeping pace, and where they're not keeping pace, what are the management interventions, whether that's hydrology, whether that's adding sediment, whether that's active revegetation, what can we do, and also creating accommodation space for those wetlands to move upslope with rising sea levels, which is why the infrastructure piece is so key. Because in most of this estuary, it's really conflicts between the built and the natural environment. You've got roads, railroads, utilities, pipelines, wastewater facilities, high voltage transmission lines. You have a lot of infrastructure that's in the way of the tides and the wetlands moving upslope. Okay, that's it. Sorry. Thank you so much.
Mayor Kate and Vice Mayor Bushey, and while they're walking up, Sandy's asking, would you keep walking, please? She's asking for you to please go. Oh, she wants you to take it home too. Okay. So, thank you, Sandy. So, the city of San Rafael is represented today, of course, by Mayor Kate, Colin, Vice Mayor, and District 3 City Councilmember Maribeth Bushey. Thank you so much for come on up. Can we applaud them for their service?
All right, okay, if you're interested, just for a moment, why doesn't everyone stand up? Just move your body for a second. I don't know about you, but I go to a lot of meetings where I'm sitting still for a really long time, and sometimes my brain starts to sag too. So, permission to just stand up? Okay. And we're going to whip through things. So thank you for inviting us. It's always a pleasure. I was reflecting that I think the first time I came to this meeting was when you all were still meeting over in the church, right? Do you remember that? Was that 15 years ago? So it's been a very long time. So thank you for continuing to invite us back. What we're going to do in the time we have left, we have just about a half an hour. The Vice Mayor and I are going to whip through a bunch of slides. Some are very broad, and then there's some specific ones building on what you already heard this morning with the county. So with that, and we'll just, and then we'll take some questions at the very end. Okay. Good. Here we are. All right, so strategic work plan, and this looks like a really, really long agenda. Trust me, I could spend a lot of time on each of these. You're just going to get a taste of each of them. And again, we're happy to go further on any of them. This was a list that was given to us by your coalition leaders, so thank you. That's what's guided the conversation today. So we start with all presentations out in the community with who's on the city council. I know all of you would pass this test, but just as a reminder, we are in districts now, so we have 4 separate districts, and I'm a directly elected at-large mayor. I'm the only mayor in all of Marin County that is directly elected. So these are your folks that represent you, as well as their districts, and as you know, Vice Mayor represents District 3, which is the district in which we're in right now. Okay, strategic work plan. This document is on our website. You will have these slides after, because I think there's some QR codes that are going to appear. I don't know how you could do a QR code from sitting down here, but you will have the slides after. So the strategic plan covers 3 years, and it covers different areas of policy, and it's done with a lot of community input, and it's really the guiding document for the city of San Rafael. And these are the different, I'm not going to read it to you, these are the different 7 areas that are in that strategic plan. So it's both the policy, but it's also things like there's infrastructure in there, high-performing government. These are all things that when city staff is looking at their work plan or what they're going to be doing every year, these are the different categories that they're working across. See, there's that QR code I was talking about. I don't think it'll work if you're far away, but we'll make sure you have the slides. Let me go back one more before we move on. So of the 3-year goals and objectives, if you're like me, you want to do all of them all at once yesterday, right? We want to have everything done. That is, of course, not possible given constraints of both staff, resources, funding, all the things that make the initiatives manifest. So we have single-year work plans, which the council discussed and approved at a meeting 2 months ago, or last month. And that work plan is of the 3 years, hey, this is what we're going to be working on in the first year. Okay, so you can dig all of that out through the QR code. The other part that's really cool and important about the strategic plan are what are the metrics, right? Back in the day, and I mean back in the day, the Vice Mayor and I have been public servants for the city of San Rafael for close to 2 decades. So we say back in the day, we really mean back in the day. And so when people would talk about metrics, they'd say, oh, we had this many meetings about the fill-in-the-blank subject. I'm all for meetings. Meetings are awesome. But that's not a great metric for achieving an objective. So if you go and look at the plan, we have data scientists who work for the city now that are looking at specific metrics to see how are we performing across these different areas. Okay, city accomplishments. The strategic plan includes, okay, what have we already done? Like all of us, we're always looking in the future. What are we going to do next? What are we going to do next? But it's important to take a moment and pause and say, what have we done? What have we completed? And so the plan includes that as well. So I didn't show you all those accomplishments, so that's a little teaser. You can go look at that online. But one thing we have, accomplishment and ongoing accomplishment, and I'm proud that this has been the case for the city for many, many decades, is we have a balanced budget. Incredibly important, especially as funding priorities from the federal government change, as sales tax dollars and things go up and down as they have from the pandemic and things like that. So this has been really, really important. One initiative that has been unfolding, we have a new finance director, well, new, air quotes, he's been here for 2 years now. He's been in the industry a long time, and we now are tying very specifically the balance to those different priority areas. So again, in terms of accountability and transparency, all of that is unfolding in the documents online. Okay, as I said, we're whipping through stuff, so quick change subject. The council and staff has worked a lot on the mobile food vending permit program. what we were getting a lot of emails and concerns about, and I don't think, did the county, did Supervisor Sackett, I don't think she talked about this morning. So a lot of concerns about folks having those mobile food carts, and sometimes they weren't so mobile, and producing food, cooking food in the Canal neighborhood and B Street and other parts of San Rafael with no health and safety overview. And so that's a problem, right? Because people are going to be eating things and getting sick. And what's interesting about this program is while the city council does enforcement, environmental health is housed with the county of Marin. So you have two big local agencies, bureaucracies, as it were, said with all the kindness and tenderness in my heart, but really trying to come together and have a program that ensures that any sort of vendors that are on the street are permitted and meeting health and safety requirements. This is actually a very nuanced and complex conversation, which again, you're just getting teasers today, and there's that QR code I keep talking about that you can go and learn more about it. We're just switching gears. Park and library improvements, as you may recall, we talked about last year. The Park and Rec Master Plan has been updated with a lot of community input. And you know that comment about let's do everything all at once yesterday? It couldn't be more true when it comes to our parks because we all use them and we want them to be at their highest and best use. We have done a lot through prioritization with the Park and Rec Committee, usually different, they have different factors that figure out which projects come to the top. And of course, funding is a big part of that. So Pickleweed, if you haven't been out there, they have a brand new synthetic field, so it can be used all year round. And as you may or may not know, some of the folks in the canal might not have access to backyards the way that other parts of San Rafael do, so that's a big, really important. There's been upgrades to Sun Valley Park. There's been upgrades, hopefully, some of you I know, because I see you, at the Peacock Gap. Ribbon cutting, yeah, Mike's given a big share on that one. I mean, it's amazing. And so really, really pleased that those initiatives have come to completion, and there's more to do. Terra Linda has a master plan. There are a lot of big dreams for what we want to have there. It will be a phased approach. And just as an aside, and there's no slide on this, but I do want to mention it, and there might be more questions later. A lot of these infrastructure projects, they're not funded solely by the general fund and by local tax dollars. They are funded by federal dollars. And so with the change in administration and the change in some of the funding policies, some of those dollars that San Rafael competed really successfully for in years past are not available in the same way that they were. So what we're going to do in the meantime is continue to do the planning and be ready, so if hopefully when those policies change, we'll be able to start competing successfully again. Let's keep going here. Oh, let me go back for a second. So I did want to talk really quickly about the Carnegie, our beloved Carnegie. Maybe some of you were at that ribbon cutting. That place literally was a leaky old building. Let me just be clear. It was a leaky old building. And now it's been upgraded and it's been renovated and it is beautiful. There are great offices for the folks that work there and it works much better right now for the folks that are there. And in addition to the Carnegie, which many of you might know, right after it was built, it was already, when you looked at the analysis, was quite undersized for a community, a city of our size. So it's been small from the beginning. So on the ballot last year ago, there was Measure P. Measure P was passed by the voters, and it will enable a new community center plus library to be built over where the community center currently is on B Street, adjacent to Albert Park. And when you think about visionary projects, wow, you have Albert Park, you have the child care center is there, you have the baseball field, like the ability to make that something really special is there. Vice Mayor Bushey and Councilmember Hill are on our subcommittee. The planning is just starting. If you don't subscribe to the snapshot, and there's a plug at the very end for it, I encourage that you do, so when those meetings and community conversations start up, you can participate if you're so inclined. So excited about that, and what we found, the libraries that I grew up with, which is you go, you check out a book, and you maybe have story time, and that was it. That's not how libraries are used anymore. They're gathering centers, they're homework centers, they're computer centers. So Measure P will enable our community to have that current as well as future amenity here in our community. Sea level rise planning, you just heard a lot about sea level rise, so I will just say the city continues to work with our stakeholders in the canal community and across the city of San Rafael. If you didn't know, and I don't know if she said it in her presentation, but when you look at the rising of San Francisco Bay, The first community in the entire bay to have inundation will be the Canal neighborhood. So we already know that. So what do we do in preparation? There is, okay, if you don't go to any other QR, actually I want you to check out all the QR codes, but go to this one. The work that has been done around sea level rise, specifically in San Rafael, whether it's adaptation, mitigation, is all, there's a ton of information there. So I'll keep going. Homelessness, again, we could do 2 hours on this topic alone, but we will go into, okay, so when we talk about comprehensive solutions to homelessness, I know everyone in this room realizes there's not one solution to fix a multifaceted, multi-layered, broad societal issue. We all know that. If there was, jurisdictions throughout California and the United States would have done it. So what it requires is us working with our community partners and most importantly, the county. The County of Marin, they are the agency that receives the majority of resources and funding and programs to help get folks from the streets into housing. And as demonstration, the Health and Human Services Department at the county, that department has more employees and a bigger budget than the entire city. So just sit with that for a moment. So our work, our collaborative work with the county is incredibly important because they're the agency tasked with it. And they have been great, great partners. They've been great partners for those long-term solutions, and when we've had encampments that emerged during the pandemic and some have lingered on, San Rafael has really had to take a leadership position on what are the tools we have? What are the tools we have access to address those issues? We have legal tools, which we have the strongest ordinances in Marin County around camping, and because of that, we're in the federal courts for over 1.5 years, but we have those on the books. And we've done things like had a sanctioned camping area, which is currently on Mahone right now. And so we're a very pragmatic city. We could have sat there and folded our arms and said, oh no, the city we need them to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is. And they're focused on housing first, which I don't disagree with. I agree with that focus, but we had an immediate short-term need. And so we have been working with the folks on Mahone. And that was, by the way, part of the settlement with the federal government, was having a site like Mahone. So again, I'm not reading any of these. Hopefully I'm not missing any of the points. Okay, maybe you guys can read this. I can barely read this and I'm standing right here. So this is just some more stats around the Mahone sanctioned camping, and it looks like this. And unless you are living in this camping site, and you have to sign in and sign out, so none of us can just wander in there. It's highly controlled for the folks that are there. It's their community. But what we found in the 2 years, almost 2 years of the Mahone, is the outcomes for folks that have a stable situation are amazing. Just think about that. When people are stable and they're not worrying about their things being stolen or whatever you would be worrying about if you were unhoused, enables folks to take that next step towards permanent supportive housing. And these stats behind me are talking about it. Right now, and I actually am looking at these, I think some of these are a little bit dated because I know that at Mahone, it says 74% of the people have case management. A case manager is someone who helps you navigate the things that you personally need to navigate to go to the next step. I know actually that 100% of the folks at Mahone are now having case management. So what that enables is then for them to do the next step and then that they're stable and can take the next step. So, and 24, another stat up there, a quarter of them have been housed. So that's amazing. So this is having folks in a place that is highly controlled and supportive works. I did talk about a 1.5 years that we got to learn about law with the federal government, the federal lawsuits that we had. This is our current ordinance. Again, not going to read it to you, but it is in alignment with both everything that's been done at the federal level as well as state mandates. And I'll just leave it at that. I think there's probably an appetite at the council and in the community to continue to look at the ordinance and see if there are things that we would evolve or make even stronger going forward. Marydale, if you read the IJ, and God bless, I hope you all do, because it is an important news source. Not that next door isn't a news source, but in addition, the Independent Journal is a great news source. There's been a lot about Marydale. This is a proposed project that will be coming to the council on Monday night. The QR code is up there if you're so inclined. I very much recommend that you educate yourself about what the project is and what it is not. There's been a lot of misinformation out there. We attended a community meeting last week on this, and we were one-on-one with community members, and the amount of misinformation that was shared with me was pretty astonishing, and it shows that the city and needs to do an even better job of getting accurate information out there. And just in a nutshell, what Marydale is, it's 80 units, proposed 80 units of affordable housing. That's ultimately what the project is about. So, and then in the interim, the proposal is having, as opposed to the home with the tents, would be have actually tiny homes. They're called homes, but they're actually not homes because they don't have water, but they have electricity. So it would be tiny homes for the folks that are on the home. So that's the proposal. Monday is going to be a meeting with lots of community engagement, and I'm excited about that because you know why? When we approved the strategic plan that laid the policies for this type of program, I think we had less than 10 people in our chambers. And so having people that come out, and this is a program coming out of that other foundational document, I'm thrilled that people are coming out to share what they feel about it. Okay, I'm going to pass it off. I think this is your cue to the Vice Mayor, and she'll whip through the track.
Thank you so much, Mayor Kate. I never get tired of saying that, Madam Mayor. Because many of you probably know, San Rafael is celebrating its 150-year anniversary this year. And in those 150 years, you have just been addressed by the first woman mayor. We have a long history, and as the first woman mayor has just laid out for you, we've got a great future. So I'm going to jump in real quickly on some detailed projects. So let's move on to the San Rafael Transit Center. How many of you used to ride the bus to San Rafael, to San Francisco? I did every day for a long time. Not so much anymore, but we're getting a new transit center. It's going to move a block north. That decision has been made. The Golden Gate Transit Authority is making the decision and working on the final design of what the new transit center is going to look like. But it will be adjacent to the train station, so that that will make it easier for people to transfer. Next. Smart, speaking of the train. We heard from Supervisor Sackett this morning about all of the details. Basically, ridership is up. It's a great way to get to Petaluma, get ice cream as she suggested, or other food and beverages that you might be interested in. That's smart. Traffic congestion, more of a San Rafael problem. We've made some progress in resynchronizing our lights and trying to keep traffic moving through that area. As someone who visits there frequently, we all know it's not perfect, but we're making improvements as can be organized with the facilities that we have there. Right. Oh, and we're going to get to see Click Fix in a minute. If there's one thing you remember, see Click Fix. It is on our website. That is how you literally get on our to-do list. So, 3rd Street improvement, as many of you noticed, we finished it last summer. The changes along 3rd Street have made great improvements for our pedestrians and bicycles through there, and at the same time, kept traffic moving. So it's a great part of our process of improving things, and we've also reduced the speed limit in certain areas. There's a big program brought to us by the different state laws that we're working on and implementing in downtown. This is the big project. This is the interconnection, and be sure to get this QR code. This is the interconnection between 101 and 580 to improve that interconnection. There have been many proposals, some very grandiose, The last 3 that they're down to now are much more modest in scope, but they are still under consideration. We don't have a slide on it, but there is right now a Project the Bellum on. Is it on the next slide? Oh, yeah, there it is. This is underway right now. This first one is being built right now. That will make it that the traffic coming off 101 will be able to, there'll be 2 lanes. So it will be a better intersection. And we should have, I think that's completed in the spring. So definitely within our planning horizon. So very exciting. That should help a great deal from the backup on 101. Road safety, we've heard a lot about this. I hear often about the crossings on Point San Pedro Road. We have grants to fund flashing lights at the intersections along here, Riviera, Peacock, Main, Night, yes. And so very exciting, should improve pedestrian access on the road and safety. Although I have to tell you, the orange flags that people have been using are very popular. I don't know if you've noticed, but the Dominican area has copied. And so imitation is the greatest source. The greatest source of flattery, sense of flattery. Okay, and the Esplanade, just to be clear, the Esplanade is between Main Drive and Riviera. Sort of that area where the bay is closest to Point San Pedro Road. We are looking at, and that is entirely in city jurisdiction. So we are looking at opportunities there, things that we can improve. And here, again, see, click, fix, your ideas. That is the best way for you to communicate with us. Your communication literally goes into a spreadsheet that gets it literally on our list. So I cannot emphasize that enough. And I have a QR code for you, so get your phones ready. The roadway resurfacing, we heard a lot of details about that from the county and the Public Works Director. Our Public Works Director, April Miller, is working hand in hand with them to jointly bring forward that program in the most efficient way that we can. So we're very excited about our partnership with the county on that topic. And services, the most important thing of the morning. This is what you need. If you want to communicate with the city, you want to give us information, ideally photographs of particular issues, whatever you want to communicate, it will come in through this program and be allocated amongst the city staffers that are working on it. And again, it's all tracked, so everything is followed. So does everybody have that? So see, click, fix. That's all right. San Rafael businesses. The supervisor talked about economic vitality this morning. San Rafael also has economic vitality as one of our major goals. And so if you are a business, this is the QR code that we want you to use. We will give you one-stop shopping to help our businesses move along. And fall and winter activity guide is out, and stay up to date in city news, but I want to go back fall and winter activity guide, not to be outdone by the county and their fancy lights at the Civic Center. Do not forget, December 13th, lighted boat parade. Always a great part of the holidays. Okay, now we go. Stay up to date, Snapchat, website, social media, and see, click, bang. And there we are. Thank you.
So we have a few minutes for questions.
And we always love to know your name, and we figure you live in District 3. Yes, you want a friend?
Yes, my name
And I'll repeat the question, so don't worry about shouting it out.
Fine. My name's Kay Law, I live in Poland. My question is about road deaths in the city. I believe that an elderly lady was killed a couple of weeks ago around the Sackett and Hay area. think earlier this year, another elderly lady was also killed in a traffic accident in the city. I think there's a concern there by a lot of people as to why this is happening. Can you give us some information about what the approach of the city is? Are you looking at all the junctions and all of the...
Great question. Thank you for asking that. So the question is around pedestrian safety in the downtown, but I would say throughout San Rafael, but really in the downtown, and that there have been some recent fatalities, and what is the city doing to respond? So 100% this is of a huge concern to the city, and we are using the tools that we have access to, and they include things like we have approved, and it sounds really dry, but we approved a local road safety plan, and that enables us to compete at a state and federal level to get funding to improve infrastructure around some of those. So, right, so we need the funding to update and have the best infrastructure, number one. Number two, if you now drive along, Vice Mayor talked about the improvement on 2nd and 3rd, having bollards. If you drive down there now, you'll notice that there's bump out on the sidewalk. So we're doing the built solutions. In addition, we have smart, I don't mean smart like train, I mean like AI, traffic lights and traffic controls and pedestrian. So it can read when someone's standing there, when you push a button, and it gives a pedestrian an advance warning. That is best practices throughout the nation. What it does mean is that cars might be held a few seconds longer, and that is a trade-off absolutely that we believe is vital. And second of all, this council, even back in 2023, has been supportive of a whole kind of approach called Vision Zero. You can go look at it online. Vision Zero is a whole bunch of different programs and ways that you can address exactly that in terms of the pedestrian, and it's both fatalities, but it's also just interactions, and it can be with cyclists as well. So this continues to be a priority. It's as it is for all of us, I think it's a personal priority of all of ours. We want people to be out walking and biking our community, and we want it to be as safe as possible given the built infrastructure. And then the last thing I'll say about it is, I know none of you ever are texting or on your phone when you're driving. And what we have found, not just in San Rafael, not just in California, but throughout the nation, and we know this from our police chief, the amount of distracted driving is through the roof. And that is contributing to accidents throughout the nation. So a little just public service announcement on that. Your text can wait, or email can wait, or whatever is happening. I don't know about you, I'll be driving along, I'm literally looking at people next to me and their heads are down. So yes, it continues to be a priority. It is not acceptable that you're going to have one interaction or even a near miss. And it continues to be something that the bicycle head, BPAC group, the advisory committee, but yes, we are 100% committed. And every time, the last thing I'll say on that is every time there is an incident, it is investigated by the police, and then those investigations are going on, and not that necessarily comes back to the council, but it goes to the staff to see if there is anything else that should be done at those intersections. Yes, you over there.
Thank you. Also regarding safety and the roadway resurfacing here in Pedro, and they did not mention, they talked about narrowing the lanes from 12 feet to 11. We have tens of thousands of enormous trucks, some who may be driving distracted as well, and plus cars, private cars that are going past the 40 mile an hour speed limit. I would like to see a study, or maybe one that's been done, of the impact, given all the huge trucks we have, of narrowing those lanes from 12 feet to 11.
Okay, I think it was a comment, which is very much appreciated, versus a question, and it was a request for ensuring that there's the data behind, I think they're called road diets, being that I wasn't here for Supervisor Sackett's, but there is data that supports it, but couldn't agree with you more. We make data-driven decisions, as well as having the community experience in those areas as well. Okay, I'm watching. 2 more questions, is that okay? And then we will just walk slowly out after, so if you have another question that you didn't get answered, definitely come and tag. Yeah, go ahead.
regards to downtown, I've noticed over the years that trees have not been trimmed. They're way too tall and they're not shaped. Is there plans to take care of the trees?
Yeah, so I'm a tree lover. We're all tree lovers. We are a tree city. So the question was this: there's a concern about the health of the trees downtown. And this question has come up before, and it comes up, by the way, through See-Click-Fix. So I actually know that DPW has a set trimming schedule. This is the answer I've received for the trees downtown and elsewhere. Having said that, if you have special knowledge and you know for sure that this tree is problematic, that is perfect for See-Click-Fix. You put the tree, you take a picture of it, you put it in there, and then you'll get a response back as to why or why not that tree is being trimmed or not trimmed. See-Click-Fix, and by the way, the Vice Mayor didn't say this, it's what we use. The other day, my husband said to me, "Oh my God, have you seen that pothole that's near where we live?" And I looked it up and I said, "Yeah." He goes, "And can I release it?" I'm like, and I sent him the link so he could fill out the pothole. Okay, we have one more. Yes, you.
Regarding the traffic, I've noticed at San Rafael High School that you have the morning traffic in and the afternoon traffic out. Generally, one student, one car. And what I think, in my perception, is we don't have a huge catchment rate, but a lot of it's coming from the canal into San Rafael, through that corridor. Is there a plan, or is there some other option that would enhance the bike walk, some other form of efficient to and from school for, and so we have a double thing to improve the health of the community, but also to reduce the traffic?
Yeah, no, great question, and I know one that the Vice Mayor hears a lot is around timing your errands so you're not there when the high school is either getting out or coming in. So I 100% understand that, and the suggestion was made, so maybe are there ways to get you out of their cars? I do know that, and we can get the ridership numbers, for the students that live in the canal, they actually take the bus. So the one car, one kid, I might guess, are actually maybe kids that live out here. And I just know that because when I was on Marin Transit and Vice Mayor is there, that bus route is timed to coordinate with the opening and closing of San Rafael High School. So, but I do hear your concern behind the question, which is, hey, there's traffic around the high school. And yes, I think it's been an issue as long as I can remember, and the city continues to look at the tools that we have. We red striped one area, we changed the turn lane, again, trying to have traffic flow. We'll continue to work with the schools. I thought where you were going to go with this, because I was meeting with some parents recently, and it was the fact, and you guys are going to laugh, but you're also going to be like irritated because it's so true. You know how you have that little safe island in the middle and they're supposed to push the button? I know, none of them push the button. I know that. And I don't know about you, but if you've had teenagers trying to get them to do anything that you think they should do, but they don't think they should do, but that little island and having them push a button was a direct concern to them jaywalking across. My hope is, and this is something we can work on, is to actually, those smart, as in artificial intelligent sensors I was talking about, maybe what we try to do is, as opposed to having them push the button, when they're sensing that someone's standing there, then the flashers can go off. Then they won't have to push the button. So with that, I know that Denise wants to land the plan.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor Kate, Vice Mayor Bushey. Thank you so much. Thank our leaders, please. I'd like the coalition chairs to come up to the front and ask us questions. And please take more food. And thank you for being here today. And also, Mike has the video, and we'll post this. Thank you so much for coming.